Well, happy Friday, folks. Welcome to Bronco Nation News Live. My name is BJ Rains with Bronco Nation News. This is Mike Prater, KTIK 95.3 FM, The Ticket. And we're normally going to do this on Thursdays, but we're traveling back yesterday from the game in Reno. Today is Friday, so I think Prater, it's kind of going to be a Thursday, Friday flip flop for a while here. We'll see. But looking forward to this as part of our new partnership with Bronco Nation News and 95.3 FM, The Ticket. Once a week for half an hour or so, we're going to jump on here and talk Boise State sports. And this is airing live on the channels of Bronco Nation News, but also on the Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube channel for KTIK, The Ticket as well. So looking forward to this, man. It's going to be some fun.
Hi, BJ. It's nice to join you. Thanks for having me. We've done a few of these kinds of shows before, but it's always like at 2 a.m. We're in the Boise State skybox, waiting for the janitor to kick us out. So it's nice to do it at normal times. It's nice to do it in the daylight, and it's nice to get back with you on Bronco Nation News. Love what you're doing there, buddy, and I love the KTIK partnership. And thanks for involving us in what you're doing. It's a pretty dang cool deal. So let's get after it, man.
Yeah, I'm not sure my wife would like if she knew I was hanging out with Mike Prater at 2 a.m. But
with the janitor, that would be very bad.
By a bar, by an unattended bar.
Oh, I forgot about the unattended bar.
No, this is going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to do some collaborations. I'll be on at 4 o'clock today on your guys' show, and we'll be streaming that here on the channels as well as having it on the radio. I know you guys are going to do some things with some interviews and stuff where you'll be streaming some interviews, videos in addition to your show, and some of those will show up on our channels as well. So I think the collaboration here is going to be fun. And before we go any further, I do got to give a quick shout out to our title sponsor. They're helping make all of this possible. Everybody should know by now all about rowpaint.com. They've got this great offer going for the indoor concrete coatings for your basement or for your garage. You get 10% off if you book it and get it done in January. So they got 12 different color combinations, even a blue and orange one for Boise State. It's not epoxy. It's way better. Polyurea floor coating, 4 times stronger than epoxy. It's backed by a 15-year warranty. So in other words, it's the last floor coating you will ever need. Again, rowpaint.com, the official paint coatings company of Boise State Athletics. They've done my garage, they've done my patio, and they're ready to do yours as well. Power in people, pride in painting, rowpaint.com. Appreciate Andy Rowe and their support of the show. And we got to talk Boise State basketball first. Mike, I was in Reno on Wednesday night. First time I've ever left Reno after a Boise State win. And I guess you could go a lot of ways with first time I left Reno since. But first time Boise State gets a win in Reno that I've been here. They had lost 6 times in a row. They had been 1-12 overall in their last 12 against Nevada the last 5 years. It's been a struggle against Nevada for whatever reason. Both teams coming off the COVID pause, but there was no layoff. It didn't look like a layoff or any rust for Boise State. They came out and played really well.
Shocking, BJ. I was wrong again, especially about this basketball team. I've hit a few of them with this basketball team, but I thought this team would show up in the first half really sluggish. And we saw what happened with Colorado State when it came back from its COVID layoff. And we're seeing it all around the country. And, you can't get sick and lay around. And I know that they were practicing and trying to get their legs back and their conditioning back, but I fully expected 20 minutes of basketball to be really ugly. BJ, you're closer to this team than I am, but that may have been the most impressive 20 minutes I've seen all season long. Not so much in terms of the production, which was fine, but just the fact that they did not look sluggish. They looked sharp. They had lots of energy. They were running around, flying around. They were efficient with their shots. This is a basketball team that was very, very focused. And not only did they just win in Reno, they kicked their butt in Reno. It was a dominating victory, 8 straight now. And even guys like me, even the skeptical crowd is starting to get impressed. I think I tweeted after the game, that's an attention-grabbing win. And I really, truly believe that if they can keep this sucker going over this crazy road trip and this crazy stretch of 11 days, I think this basketball team's onto something pretty big.
Kind of one of those do it till they tell you not to, Prater. I don't know the copyright things or FCC or whatever it's called. I guess it's copyright, but we'll give FS1 credit here in the screen. But there's the dunk from Emmanuel Acott. You were watching on TV. I was in the arena, and here's a replay of it. He does the spin move. He comes in with the one-handed tomahawk slam right there. And that was one of those, Prater, where even the fans of the other team, even the players of the other team kind of went, ooh, like that. That was one of those that rocked the building. That was a heck of a dunk and kind of came out of nowhere.
I saw that, and I even saw the reaction of the Boise State bench, and that was fun. When you see guys like that, and Leon always talks about chemistry, especially with this basketball team, that's just kind of a cool little sign of that dunk, that bench, those players, all the ooh, they had their hands up to their mouth going, oh, it was a pretty cool moment. It was a really cool scene.
couple other highlights from this game. Boise State, it was kind of the Marcus Shaver Jr. show, and Emmanuel Acott Shaver hit a jumper there. I think we got a bucket from Mladen Armouche as well. And this was one of those games where it was just, everybody doing things. And I thought this next play we're going to see was kind of just kind of showed you the game. There was a shot. Najee Smith comes up from behind, steals the ball, and goes in for a huge slam. And you see the reaction of the bench up top there. That was a kind of play, Prater, that, just kind of showed that if you want to sum up the game in one play. Boise State playing tough. Boise State, hustling, playing with great defense, turning it into offense, the bench going crazy. And, we talk about Shaver and Acott. Maybe we'll talk about them some more in a minute. But guys like Najee Smith coming off the bench, that's how you become a really good team, when you can put a guy like in there for 20-plus minutes and get 11 points. And I think some of the other pieces, you're starting to see some balance with this team. And the depth, even though it's thin, the guys they're playing are all starting to produce.
I love watching Najee play basketball, and I'm glad you showed that clip, because that's a pretty cool deal, and that's exactly what it is. And just in terms of the hustle and the determination, Boise State finished this game strong. As much as they started this game strong, they finished this game strong. And Najee Smith, I need to know more about this guy. I don't know if you have any little nugget you can share, because I'm trying to get to know this guy just a little bit more. And where did he come from, and how – this guy might be one of the most exciting off-the-bench players Boise State's had. I'm not saying the best, but coming off the bench and doing what he's doing and adding the mojo and the athleticism that he shows, this guy's an important player for this basketball team, BJ.
Was a first-team junior college All-American, and came in last year and was probably going to redshirt until they had the COVID rule where you could play and it wouldn't affect your eligibility. So he got a little bit of playing time, but I think they always saw him as kind of a guy that would make his mark this year, and then he has one more year next year as well. And so, he's playing great defense, hitting some shots from the outside. I've been very impressed with Najee Smith, the defense, the rebounding. He actually had a huge block that was all ball that they called a foul as well. So he's just got some hops and brings that, he's a little bit undersized in terms of playing down in the post, but he brings it every play, man. He brings the energy, and when he's not in the game, you see him on the bench cheering and going crazy. And I thought, the chemistry, and Leon Rice said it after the game, I think his quote was, we're a good team right now because we're a team. And he said that the pieces just fit right now. And so, I don't know what it was about removing Devonair Dutrieve from the roster, and I don't know how much of it was just a coincidence and this team was ready to take off anyway. I don't know how much of it was Tyson Degenhart, getting a chance to move into the starting lineup. But whatever it was, ever since then, I'd like to say it since Bronco Nation News started. They're 8-1, but they're actually 8-0 since the dismissal of Devonair Dutrieve. And again, not putting it all on Dutrieve, but the pieces now seem to fit a little better. The chemistry is great. I noticed one play, Mike, where I don't know if they showed it on TV, but I think it was Abu Kijab that fell to the floor at one point in the first half, and all four other guys on the court instantly sprint and ran from all parts of the court to run and try to help him up. And it's just the small little things like that where it seems like this team really is buying in, and they really are together right now.
Let's play the skeptical card. Let's have a little mini debate for about 3 or 4 minutes here in terms of the direction of this basketball team and the future of this basketball team. We all know that there's a basketball game against New Mexico tomorrow on Saturday. Air Force, they got 4 games in the next 10 days in 4 different states. The future of this basketball team, what do you see with this basketball team that's going to tell me it's going to be different, tougher, and better maybe moving forward? Is this the kind of team that's going to continue to get better as opposed to some of their late season slip-ups?
Well, I think that's something that, I can't wait to hear your opinion on too, because I know at times you've been a little critical, and I think at fans, and, the record is what it is. The track record is what it is. It hasn't been the greatest finishes in March, obviously, as everybody knows. And so I do think there's some people, I saw it on my Twitter feed. There's still people that aren't enjoying this right now. They're saying, oh, well, who cares? We'll we know what's going to happen in March. I mean, there's just a certain portion of the fan base that's not going to buy in until they actually win a couple of games in March. And I guess that's fair. But I mean, if I were a Boise State fan, worry about that in March. Enjoy this right now while you can. You can be pissed off and mad and wanting Leon Rice fired, come March 12th or whatever. But right now, 8 in a row, and you're all of a sudden popping up on bubble lists for the NCAA tournament all of a sudden, and you're, top 40 in some of the metrics. I mean, I see no reason right now to not enjoy this if you're a Boise State fan. Now, I would say if you want some part of that, Prater, it's the last game. I mean, in Reno, like I said, they had lost 6 in a row there. There was a couple times, even in the second half where, You go in with a 14-point lead at halftime. Nevada comes out and scores the first 7 points. All of a sudden, your lead's down to 7. Things are getting a little tight. The palms are getting a little sweaty. The crowd's getting into it. And all of a sudden, you're going, oh, man, this isn't looking good. And Marcus Shaver hits a huge 3. They follow up with another shot to quiet the crowd. The lead's back to 13, and it's like, okay, this team's fine. And so I would also say, from my perspective, Mike, you don't have that Derek Alston type guy where he's taking 15 shots, regardless of whether he's 1 for 15 or 11 for 15. Derek Alston was going to get his shots even if he was struggling. Sometimes he'd, look great. Sometimes he'd take some shots where you'd go, what are you doing? You don't have that guy, and there's not really a guy that just, when he gets the ball, and I hate to say it, but that guy was Devonair Dutrieve, where he would get the ball, he would dribble for 10 seconds and take a bad shot sometimes, and just had to get his shots. And so there's just a lot more ball movement. There was one play in the game the other night where they had like 3 passes within the paint. They all had easy layups, and they kept passing it to a guy who got an even better layup. I mean, it was just that the ball movement seems better, the unselfishness seems better, and again, one night it may be Emmanuel Akot scoring 20-plus points. One night it may be Abu Kijab scoring 20-plus points. It may be Marcus Shaver at one point. Mladen Armouche, when they want to feed him the ball at times, he can be that guy. And then, Tyson Degenhardt's averaging, 13-plus since he moved into the starting lineup. The balance, to me, it just doesn't seem like they're nearly as relying on one player as they have in the past. And sometimes that's great. Leon said it both ways. You'd like to have a guy you can pencil in for almost 20 every night. That would be great. But 5 guys maybe in that 10 to 12 range on a consistent basis may end up being better, because any given night one of those guys can go off. And so, I think this next stretch here, Mike, is very interesting. I know this is supposed to be your show and I'm doing all the talking, but I think this next stretch is going to be really interesting, because you mentioned the upcoming games. I do think tomorrow, is a little bit of a trap game, to be honest with you, because New Mexico has a couple guards that can really light it up. New Mexico's had a couple games where they got really hot and hit like double-digit three-pointers, and the Pit's a tough place to play. This game was sandwiched in, coming off a road trip. They landed yesterday. They turn around and leave again today to go back on the road. I'm not making excuses or saying they're going to lose, but whatever the point spread is, it would not shock me one bit if this was we look up with 8 minutes left in the second half and this is a 5 or 6 point game still. I mean, I think this is a sneaky, tough game, but Boise State, should win tomorrow. You should beat Air Force on Tuesday. And then I think if you can go 1-1 in that 2-game stretch at Utah State and San Diego State, and let's not remember San Diego State, it's going to be their first game after a 2-week break because of the pause. You mentioned how the teams have come off and not played well in the pause. Maybe you're getting lucky and catching San Diego State at the right time here. But at minimum, you try to go 1-1 in that thing, and then the schedule really starts to open up for them, Mike. I mean, they got Fresno State on the road, which is obviously going to be a very tough game. They played them tough at home, and they're a top 60 KenPom team. But after that, you look at what's coming up after that, and it's Wyoming at home, San Jose State, UNLV, Air Force, Utah State at home. I mean, I did the math yesterday. There's a real chance this team only loses 1 or 2 games in the next couple of weeks, and we look up for that home game against San Diego State in late February, where Boise State's like 21-5 or 20-6, and all of a sudden that becomes a monster type game. So I mean, I know it's still a long ways away. A lot has to happen, but from what I've seen from this team the last couple of games and the last month, and in particular that game in Reno, they look like a mature veteran team that's not going to get rattled, and they're going to make plays late, and they've been in close games, and they've found ways to win them. And I just think that's another thing that I'll finish it up with this. You say, what looks different? Look at the last 5 minutes of some of these games, the Washington State game, the Santa Clara game, some of these other games where they were close in the last couple of minutes, and Boise State got some stops. The Fresno State game was tied, I think, with 5 minutes left. They've kind of wilted in the past down the stretch, and not made plays and gone into scoring droughts in the last 3 minutes. Well, now they haven't shown that this year. There's been 4 or 5 games where they've won the last 5 minutes, and that's won them the game. And I think that's, potentially a good sign moving forward, their ability in close games to pull it out down the stretch.
I agree with pretty much everything you just said, except you left out the one magic word that I think is really the strength of this basketball team. And you talked about it in generalities, but the word defense, the word defense is defense travels. There's so many different cliches when it comes to defense, but this defense is very consistent. I think that's exactly why they're winning those games in the last 5 minutes. This basketball team is going to lose a couple of games this season because of poor shooting nights, whether it's at the free throw line or from the field. I just sense that. But defense is going to keep them in most games, even if those type of games where they can struggle with the shot. So I think defense is the key here. Defense is the shining bright light that keeps me optimistic at this time of the season as Leon Rice starts to move forward. The one thing about the schedule, the one thing about the fans, and we talked about the community engagement and enjoying the 8-game winning streak. 8-game winning streaks don't come around Boise State basketball very often. You're right. Whether it's the media, the players, the students, the fans, the boosters, the poor boosters, the rich boosters, whatever. Enjoy this 8-game winning streak. But here's the problem. If you looked at the schedule, and I know you have, they have 2 home games this month, and they're on Tuesdays. They have Air Force this Tuesday, and they have Wyoming in a couple of weeks on a Tuesday. Now, I know the games can, the schedule could change. Colorado State owes Boise State a home game. Maybe they slip something in there. But it's kind of a misfortune right now that this basketball team is playing so well. And the community engagement, the skeptical community, the skeptical fans, they're really out there not having a chance to see them. They can watch them on TV. They can listen to them on the radio. They can watch us. But getting out to the arena, I hope there's a big crowd on Tuesday for Air Force. But Tuesday night, Air Force, that's a tough call, even if you've won 9 straight basketball games.
Yeah, that will be a kind of a litmus test, I think, because normally an Air Force game doesn't fire you up and say, that's the game I got to go see. But if they beat New Mexico and they're on a 9-game winning streak, I think you say, hey, they haven't had a home game in a couple weeks. They don't have another one for a couple weeks. Let's go support the team. I would think you could get a season-high crowd to this point in there for that one, I would think. I mean, at least it's a 7 p.m. game. That helps a little. It's not 8 or 9 on a weeknight. It's a 7 p.m. game. So, yeah, that does hurt. That does stink. But I will say this, Mike, they're going to finish with a lot of home games. So the month of February, the month of February could be a fun one because they play pretty well at home. And if they got a lot of home games late in the season, Utah State, San Diego State, Colorado State with the makeup, UNLV, if they can go on a run here and get things going, I think if they can kind of hold serve and just stay in the mix here, it might be a chance in February to finish this thing strong. You mentioned the defensive numbers, Mike, and I know I'm a big Ken Palm guy, and I know some folks are familiar with him, some folks aren't. It's a defensive metrics thing where it's a analytics thing. I was going to talk about the defense in a second, but just in general, the 10-second version of Ken Palm, it's like sabermetrics for baseball. It takes all your numbers, all your opponent's numbers, and it's, the old RPI used to just say, what was your opponent's record? Who had they played? Well, now it takes in all of their stats and all this stuff, and all this jumbled stuff basically to predict how, future games and things like that, and just kind of how you're supposed to do against an average team or a team of that caliber and how they usually do. And it's just a whole jumbled thing. But in layman's terms, it's supposed to help tell more than just a team's record and who they've played. It's supposed to look at your style, how teams do against you in terms of turnovers and assists, and where do they shoot 2s or 3s, and they jumble it all together. And Boise State right now, I mentioned, is number 40 overall, which is the highest they've been ranked at Ken Palm since the 2015 season, which is the season they got the at-large bid to the first 4 and played Dayton in Dayton. So the last time they were this high, they did make the NCAA tournament. It's obviously a long way to go, but you talk about the defense, adjusted defensive efficiency, Prater. If you're in the top 30, usually like by the end of the season, you look up and like 9 times out of 10, the at-large teams or the teams that are in the top, chunk of the defensive numbers. Boise State right now, number 16 in the country in defensive efficiency. It's adjusted defensive efficiency. So it's your defensive stats, but it also takes into account who you're playing and what their offensive stats typically are coming into a game, and how they do above or below average. And you just look at this, Prater, and some of the teams below Boise State on this list: Gonzaga, Duke, UCLA, Kentucky, Kansas, Michigan State. I could go down the line, but you're talking about top 20 ranked teams right now, in some cases top 5 ranked teams, and Boise State statistically has a better defense in them this season to this point, and it's been just really, really impressive. And Mike Burns deserves a lot of credit. He's kind of their defensive coordinator and does a great job on the defense. The effective field goal percentage, they're 14th in the country on defense. That takes into account whether the shot was a 2 or a 3 and the percentages there. 14th in the country on that. Another one that sticks out to me, Prater, They're ninth in the country in limiting opposing teams' offensive rebounds. So they don't give up a ton of offensive rebounds, and that helps. Only 21% of the time when a team takes a shot against them do they get an offensive rebound. So Boise State cleans up the defensive glass. They do a great job, and you look at all the defensive numbers, this is one of the best defensive teams in a long time. And me and Matt Bauscher were talking about it yesterday, Mike. Bauscher, wanted to start the discussion, is this the greatest Boise State defense of all time? I don't have as much history as you do, but the numbers speak for themselves that at least this year it's one of the best defenses in the country.
I'm going to guess statistically back in the Rod Jensen and Bobby Dye days, there was better defenses in this Boise State basketball program. But they were winning basketball games back then, 51-49. That's how they wanted to win basketball games. Look what happened in Reno, 85-70. Are you kidding me? This is a basketball team that can play Rod Jensen and Boise State, Bobby Dye's style of defense, but can go out there and score 80-plus points as well. That's what's the difference here. Plus, you talked about all those analytics, and you talked about Coach Burns. I'm not sure he's a good defensive coach. I'm not sure he's got a good defensive strategy. I just think he stares at him because he's a mean-looking man. He's an intimidating-looking man. And he just says, go out and play defense, and then he just looks at him, and then they automatically go out and play defense. I'm joking a little bit. We had him on the show. He's an X's and O's mastermind. Brilliant dude. Rarely do I have a sports conversation where my head is left spinning when I'm done talking. Mike Burns left my head spinning after we talked about defense. That dude knows what he's doing, and you get that look as well. Holy cow, that's a pretty good combination.
Hey, quick word, shout out United Commercial Insurance, the best in business insurance. They're a local company. Brandon Meinert, his staff, they're right here in Boise, but they can write policies in 44 states around the country. If you've started your own business or been working for decades, United Commercial Insurance offers competitive rates, great service to help manage your business insurance needs. General liability insurance, workers' comp, professional liability insurance, commercial property insurance, business owner policies, commercial automobile liability, cyber insurance, you name it, they can do it. Just give United Commercial Insurance a call and get a quote. They make it easy on your business. Final thing, Mike, before we switch topics real quick, you mentioned kind of the fan base and whether or not they're ready to buy in and all this. I did have, I wanted to touch on that a little bit more because, like I said, everybody knows the March track record. Everybody knows what it's been. It is what it is. I mean, Leon Rice is going to continue to get the questions until there is a change, and this is the year, and maybe this is the year. But what would you say to the fans? Because I did have a lot of fans saying they're not ready to buy in yet, and they're just kind of, they're basically just saying this doesn't count until you get to March. Whatever you do now, it doesn't matter until you get to March. Is that fair? Should fans start buying in? Is it okay to just not be paying attention now until we get to March? Or what is your take on, past failures maybe and how you should look at this season?
I think I can speak with this with a great amount of expertise because I feel like I represent both camps. I mean, let's enjoy the 8-game winning streak. Let's enjoy what they got playing. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed that basketball game the other night. That was one of the better Boise State basketball experiences as a fan. I didn't travel to Reno like you did, so I was at home watching it and just entertaining myself with basketball, and then where they played. So you can enjoy what's going on right now. You can be a fan, but I'm still very skeptical. And 8-game winning streaks in January don't matter. They really don't. This basketball program will eventually prove it with what they do in March, but that doesn't mean you can't smell the journey along the way. So I just enjoy it. I mean, I think this is a really fun collection of athletes. We've been watching them for 2 or 3 years, kind of hearing the hype about these transfers and the roster that Leon Rice was putting together. It's got some warts. We know that they can't shoot sometimes. We know that they have struggled with free throws. We know that there's not a lot of depth. We know that Mladen Armouche can maybe get into foul trouble every now and then. And this basketball program is different. This team is different with Mladen Armouche on the bench with fouls. So they got some stuff to deal with, but they got plenty of time to work it out. But ultimately, it does come down to March. If this basketball program doesn't get to the NCAA tournament, I think it's going to be a massive disappointment and a PR nightmare for Leon Rice. I don't even care about winning a game. Just get there. I don't care if it's at large. I don't care if it's Dayton. I don't care where it is. Just get to the NCAA tournament. And in this particular case, that probably means at least getting to the championship game in the Mountain West tournament. This is at least a 3-bid league. So I don't think that's any problem. Get to the semifinals, win a game, and see what can happen. I think this basketball team can do it. I'm seeing the moxie of this basketball team. It's a good conference. It's a deep conference. I don't think there was a losing team in this conference after non-conference play. Everybody had a 500 or a winning record. It's a good conference this year. Boise State's going to take some bumps, but enjoy the journey. Smell the roses, as they like to say. But let's wait for March. March is the big one. That's going to be the final exam.
Well, speaking of the Mountain West tournament, Prater, we're going to announce it formally in the future, but I will let folks know if they're thinking about going down for the tournament. We are going to be announcing soon a deal we have with the Circa Sports Hotel and Casino. I don't know if you've been down there yet. It's the world's largest sports book. They also have the outdoor stadium swim, heated pools. They're open 365 days a year. I've been down there and watched sports. It'd be an amazing spot to watch conference tournament or March Madness, just sitting out in the pool with all 8 games on at once. So if you're thinking of going to the tournament, stay at Circa. It's down on Fremont Street, the new downtown casino. We're going to try to do a subscriber event or some event for Boise State fans at Circa somewhere with discounted drinks. And we're working on something kind of as a pregame, maybe to go pregame before you head over for the Boise State game in the Mountain West tournament. So stay tuned on that. 2 quick topics. We got about a minute each, Prater, to get you out of here so we don't break our agreement in the first week here on going over the time limit. But I did want to ask you quickly, there's 8 Boise State players. The NFL playoffs start tomorrow. There's 8 guys going for a ring. You got Marcus Henry, Tanner Vallejo on the Cardinals. Everybody knows the Cowboys quartet: DeMarcus Lawrence, Darian Thompson, Leighton Vander Esch, Cedric Wilson. You throw in Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator. Dante Dion with the Rams. John Molchon with the Buccaneers. And then I haven't seen if McNichols got re-signed at least to the practice squad with Tennessee. Okay, so he's there as well. So that makes it 9. Just what are your quick thoughts on the NFL and the Boise State connection starting tomorrow? And I guess we'll throw it into the same one. Kellen Moore, his name gets getting thrown around. This might finally be the time that Kellen Moore gets that head coaching gig.
Yeah, last year, John Molchon won himself a Super Bowl ring without ever stepping a foot on a football field, and he's still in the same position. So it can be done. There can be life-changing memories, but all eyes are on the Dallas Cowboys. There's no doubt about that. With those kinds of players and that group of guys that are playing, and some of the storylines, Leighton Vander Esch fighting for his career, fighting for his next contract, fighting for cash in his bank account to take care of his family. There's kinds of stories like that going on. And the Kellen Moore situation, we can jump on that here in a minute, but the Cowboys, whether it's from Boise, Idaho, because we're following Boise State, or whether it's the entire nation in terms of the National Football League fan base watching the Dallas Cowboys in terms of what they can do. Can they be a difference maker in the playoffs? I cannot wait to see what Kellen Moore cooks up. 51 points in his last game. This guy's a rock star right now. We know that. He's doing interviews here, doing interviews there. As far as we know, he's only done 1 interview with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but the Vikings, there's maybe some interest there. We know that the Broncos have some interest. I would be shocked if the Miami Dolphins didn't show some kind of interest. Kellen Moore is a busy guy right now, but you know what he's like. He's Chris Peterson. He's Chris Peterson minus 25 years. Dude is focused. He's laser focused. He's dialed in. I cannot wait. I don't like the Dallas Cowboys. I don't want to sit there and see them win football games, but I cannot wait to see what Kellen Moore does in the playoffs, dial some things up, and maybe even get to the Super Bowl.
Hey, Lithia Ford of Boise, paying top dollar for used cars and trucks, even if you don't buy from us. All done in 3 easy steps, Prater. You can share your vehicle online, make an appointment, and get a cash offer from the appraiser while you wait, hassle-free on the spot. And Lithia Ford of Boise, our pre- and post-game show sponsors, appreciate them. Final thing, Mike, before we get out of here, Boise State football, the coaching staff now looks complete. We see the departures with Stacey Collins and Jerron Johnson and Winston Venable. We see the new trio coming in as well. There was a switch at recruiting director as well. When you look at the coaching staff right now compared to the coaching staff, the day the bowl game was canceled, how do you look at the additions, the negatives, and the new staff that it looks like Andy Avalos is going to take into 2022?
I think he upgraded his coaching staff, and we love the guys that left. We love them a lot, and they meant a lot to this football program. But in terms of veteran leadership, game day experience, X's and O's on a Saturday afternoon, doing those kinds of things, I thought that this coaching staff missed a lot of that kind of stuff last year. I'm not worried about this coaching staff Monday through Friday, but on Saturdays and on game days, I think that they got better. They got better leadership. They got better experience. I really like what he did. I cannot wait to see Popinga. Boniface a no-brainer. And then you bring in a head coach. I don't care what level he was coaching at. That's a pretty good upgrade if you ask me, BJ.
Hey, I saw Mark Ridley, by the way, Mike. He flew his private plane down to Reno for the game. I found out he's now a pilot. He's got like a nice 10-seat jet, so I'm hoping maybe we can get a seat on there for one of these road games in the future, Mike. But appreciate Mark Ridley, shopridleys.com. He's been a big supporter of ours, and he went down to the game and came back, and it was fun to see him down there. And I think people are starting to buy in, Mike. So it's going to be a big next week. Got the game tomorrow in Albuquerque. I'll be flying down early tomorrow morning, so we'll have full pregame, postgame coverage on Bronco Nation News channels tomorrow. Air Force at home on Tuesday, and then next weekend, maybe as tough a stretch as they've had in a long time, in less than 48 hours, playing in Logan and in San Diego. So I think this time next week, but really this time 2 weeks from now, Mike, we're going to have a much bigger, better picture on the future of this program. So 3 to 6 today. What do we got coming up today? I know I'll be on today's show, but you guys are going to wrap up the week, and I know it's going to be you'll talk some Boise State basketball. Get ready for that game tomorrow, but the NFL playoffs, I'm sure, will be a big topic as well.
We got 3 rock stars on Idaho Sports Talk today at 95.3 FM. The ticket starting at 3 o'clock. 3 big rock stars, Big J. We got Pro Football Hall of Famer and Super Bowl champion Jerry Kramer. We got former NFL head coach Dirk Cutter, who's going to come on and be our NFL playoff correspondent for the next month. And then we have the great and the legendary BJ Rains.
I was trying to count it. I was trying to count. I said, well, that's 2. I don't know what. He's surely not going to put me in that category. But yeah, that's disrespectful to the first 2 guests to put me in the same category. But no, should be fun. 3 to 6, and then I'll join you at 4 o'clock for the Bronco Nation News segment. And yeah, looking forward to it. And again, we're going to keep doing the streaming, and we'll have some of I think the 4 o'clock segment will stream on the channels as well. But hopefully, folks will listen. I've had it on the bottom of the screen scrolling there, but KTIK.com, the KTIK app as well, Mike, is a good way to listen to it, and then 95.3 FM, 1350 AM, correct?
Absolutely.
Looking forward to it. We'll see you at 3 o'clock, Mike. Appreciate your time today. We'll talk to you here on the channels next week, but big weekend, big week ahead for Boise State basketball, and you guys will have it covered. 95.3 The Ticket. Again, KTIK.com. You can listen live, Bronco Nation News as well. So appreciate everybody for checking us out. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys 4 o'clock back here for the Bronco Nation News Report on Idaho Sports Talk with Prater and the Ball Game.